In reality television, the people are represented by two separate but equally obsessed attorneys. This is their podcast.
Hi, I'm Ceci.
And I'm Angela.
And this is the Bravo Docket.
All right, welcome back to the Bravo Docket. Today we are going to be covering medical malpractice, which oddly enough is creeping up on Real Housewives of Orange County. But we originally got the idea because one of our listeners kept messaging us about this house husband from Real Housewives of Miami, Leonard Hochstein, who himself was sued multiple times this past year for medical malpractice. And then, as luck would have it, Real Housewives of Orange County, the first, big drama is the lawsuit that Nicole James filed against Terry Dubrow years and years and years ago. So that is going to be the topic of this episode. And as we found out, Terry is not the only OC-related person that has been sued for medical malpractice. Do you want to give a little teaser about that, Angela?
Yeah, so there's the Terry Dubrow thing, and then I found a very interesting lawsuit filed against Dr. Jen Armstrong, who is the new cast member on RHOC, and it involves just about every kind of filler you can think of and radiofrequency, and it's just in the very beginning of the lawsuit. So really all we have is the plaintiff's complaint, but we'll go in and explain that stuff. And then I got really into it. So I did some research on some of the procedures that were done, because who doesn't love learning about the different kinds of things you can inject into your face? So we have all of that for you as well.
Yeah, so I think we should set some groundwork for those people who aren't watching Real Housewives of Orange County, because I know not everyone watches all the franchises, as to how this came up, because I think it would be kind of interesting to talk about it, because I thought it was kind of the weirdest reaction from a housewife and house husband that I've ever seen on a show. So Heather Dubrow is back. She's back as Miss Fancy Pants. I think she took 5 years off of the show. Her husband is a plastic surgeon, and she's really proud of that. She's always been really proud and boasts about it, and they have a ton of money. They've built 2 houses on the span of their time on Real Housewives of Orange County. He used to be on The Swan. I don't know if you knew that. He used to be one of the plastic surgeons that took, the ugly ducklings and transformed them into swans.
Wait.
Yeah, that was one of the
from
first.
A long time ago. I remember
one of the first
that.
reality TV shows. And that one felt icky because it's I don't know, then they'd go and find love and I don't know. Well, now all the celebrities have plastic surgery and go find love and I don't know, deceive people. But it was the premise was oh, you need this to be hot. And I don't know. Anyway, so he was on that. Terry Dubrow also got his own show with Paul Nassif from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills called Botched. And I love that show. I'm obsessed with Botched. Have you ever seen Botched?
I know of it. It makes me very nervous to see those types of things because I haven't had any surgery on my face or anything like that yet, but I am terrified of
they all say you should do your research, and I'm sure as attorneys we do a lot of research, so I'm sure before you did anything you would do your research. But a lot of these people go to Mexico and have cement put in their face, so I don't think you're gonna do that.
I'm totally down for that. I'm totally
I don't know, it used to be my when I'd come home and want something to watch and nap to, that's the show I would watch. Very odd. But anyway, so he's making bank on his own practice and then having this show. He's really well known. People know him as the guy that can fix other plastic surgeons' botched jobs. That's his thing. So Heather came back and it kind of seems she had more say this season or had more control. She had a very, I don't know if you get this sense because you haven't seen Heather before. Do you get this sense that she's coming back controlled and knowing what's up and trying to control how she appears on the show? That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for me because this is my first time watching Heather. I've only seen a couple seasons of OC. So she presents herself as very like confident, secure, in control, everything in order. Her 5 kids are all great. Like her house is perfect. And she walks around with authority, but then also like saying, I'm leaving the show. I'm done. I'm gone. I'm leaving the show. Having her react that way and then disappear was interesting. It made me think that did she, having had experience from being on the show before, does she renegotiate a contract that understanding what more favorable terms she would want in it, basically saying she would get notice of things or they wouldn't talk about, whatever. It made me wonder about that. So I agree.
That's how I felt. Like that she was more mad at production for not giving her a heads up than mad at Shannon for bringing it up. But so what happened, the background here is that Shannon went out and blacked out and told Gina that this new woman, Nicole James, who's supposed to be a housewife this season, had sued Terry Dubrow years and years and years ago. And she's like, why is she friends with Heather? I don't think that's that bad. Like, she got drunk. She was gossiping with her friends. It slipped out. And then she was like, oh, please don't bring this up. I don't think that's that bad. Like,
well, lawsuits are public record. So it's not like she revealed any information that wasn't available publicly, It was, she had a different last name, but it's like, it's not that hard. It wouldn't have been that hard for somebody to figure that out. And
one
honestly,
of the fan accounts would have figured it out.
100%, like Bravo, Ducking Bravo, or Bravo Bone Collector would have figured that out and would have posted it anyway. So
we probably would have figured it out.
We would have found it. Yeah.
Let's give us some credit.
Okay.
Yeah. So then it's like Gina feels bad, brings it up at Heather's party. Heather storms off. She's like, I'm leaving the show. They're gone for what I think is an hour, except I don't think there was a timestamp for some reason. I feel like they were gone for an hour, her and Terry. And then they come back. And this scene is like the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Nicole James is like sitting on the couch, bawling her eyes out, like, I'm so sorry for suing you. And they're like, oh, like, I can't believe. No. What is it? Terry's like, you sued me. Do you remember that? He was like,
yeah, he's like, are you Nicole Weiss? You sued me. Yeah.
Yeah, like all mean. And then they look at each other and he's like, but you dropped it. Like laughs in her face. And she's like bawling her eyes out. Like, oh, I'm so sorry they made me. And then they're like, it's fine, whatever. And now they're acting like they're totally fine with the fact that she sued him long ago. And now they're all pissed off at Shannon. And it seems like it's just an excuse to be mad at Shannon. And I really do think behind the scenes, though, Heather's really upset that it came up with, like, she's upset with production that it came up. And that's probably why Nicole James wasn't made a full-time housewife. That's just my conspiracy theory. She's acting like she's fine with it on camera, but really is not. So,
I mean, it was so long ago. Doctors do get sued all the time. I don't know. So far, I don't know. So far, it seems like Nicole James has a very kind of flat affect a little bit, like, but it's very early in the season. So, and then what's her face? The other one is just bringing it because her life is, I feel bad for her. Her life is like falling apart. The one whose husband is in Puerto Rico.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a whole other lawsuit that we'll get to at some point.
We got all kinds of stuff for you.
Yeah. Like, thank you, Orange County. This is not one that I thought would bring us new stuff, but
we have so much we can barely keep up with it. And it's like we've got some amazing, we have pleadings that no one else has, and we are going to do a whole episode on it. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I thought we'd start by explaining what medical malpractice is. I can give a high-level primer, and then, Angela, if you want to dive in to some specifics.
Sure.
So it's a claim in tort law, and we've talked about tort law a lot. It's kind of like the personal injury backbone, usually like slip and fall cases, like accidents. It's all in like tort law, and I love tort law. I think it's so fun. But it's any act or omission by a physician during a treatment of a patient that deviates from accepted norms of practice in the medical community and causes an injury to the patient. The injured patient has to show that the physician acted negligently in rendering care and that such negligence resulted in injury. So there are 4 legal elements, and this is like if we were to give you a fact pattern, this is what you try and find to prove medical malpractice. So the first element is a professional duty owed to the patient. So there has to be some relationship between the patient and the doctor. You can't just sue any doctor. And that's kind of like easy to prove, you know, as soon as you go into their office and you're like, I want to get filler. There's a duty owed. You have a relationship there. The second one is a breach of such duty. There has to be a breach of the standard of care. And the standard of care, which is like under quotes, it can differ among jurisdictions. It's usually that there's a reasonable, you compare it to a reasonable, similarly situated professional and compare it that way to see if there's a breach of the ordinary standard of care that the medical professional should be providing. The third element is injury that was caused by the breach of the standard of ordinary care or professional care. And the fourth element is damages. So money damages, economic loss, pain and suffering, those types of things. So those are the four main elements. Do you want to talk about California or anything else generally?
Sure. Since like a bunch of these we're going to talk about come up in California. So no matter what state you're living in, there's a deadline for filing that's called the Statute of Limitations. So you have to make this claim against your doctor before the statute of limitations. And in California, a medical malpractice lawsuit must be filed no later than 3 years after the date of injury or 1 year after the plaintiff discovers or through use of reasonable diligence. Why I'm having a hard time talking. In California, it's the weekend. A medical malpractice lawsuit must be filed no later than 3 years after the date of injury or 1 year after the plaintiff discovers or through the use of reasonable diligence should have discovered the injury, whichever occurs first. In plain English, this means once you learn you've been injured by a healthcare provider's mistake in California, or you should have known, then the clock starts ticking. Warlock. Warlock wants to jump in. In or out, buddy? Malpractice cases are tough. There's a standard of care that's you have to find an expert to testify to, a medical expert to say this doctor should have done this specific thing or should have known. I mean, sometimes it can be easier. Like when I had my own practice, we had we ended up referring this case out, but we had a person come to us with they had gotten sepsis from having a sponge sewn into them after a surgery. And they're like, it's obvious like you're not supposed to leave those things inside people. You're supposed to have checklists, all kinds of things like that. So sometimes they are easier than others. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, this person suffered severe complications and, you know, that complications are not due to like a known like complication that you would, I guess, sort of consent to. It's something that occurred from negligence. And I mean, they're tough. And like a lot of states also have things where you have to notify the doctor first. In California, you have to notify the doctor before you file the lawsuit. And then you have to have proof of that. So you have to like send a letter. And there's just a lot of limitations as well. California has a $250,000 cap on non-economic damages, which means pain and suffering. So that has not been modified since 1975. Which, if you think about it, if something like really bad happens to you as a result of your doctor's negligence, I mean, let's say they amputate the wrong finger or the wrong arm or something. The most you can get for your pain and suffering for missing a finger that shouldn't have been taken off or an arm is $250,000. That's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that probably is like the biggest form of damage in these types of cases, or the biggest type of injury that the person experiences. Like, yeah, you might miss out some days of work, but if you're like coming out disfigured, you would think you would want a lot of like money back for that. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's like you have to, also it's like sometimes you have to get to like maximum medical improvement before you sue. So like, or before you like, you have to have somebody like testify as to what that will be. So you know what your continuing economic damages are. Like, okay, this medical issue occurred. This person is going to have to continue seeking medical treatment as a result of the negligence for the rest of their life. Here's what we think this will cost. You have to have like, you know, an economist provide that sort of information. Like if you can't work anymore. These cases are very, very involved and very difficult. Yeah, a lot of expert witnesses in these. Mm-hmm. So I thought something interesting to talk about on this is the Good Samaritan laws, because there is an exception to medical liability in Good Samaritan laws, and basically an exception to medical liability, so an exception to breaking the standard of reasonable care or whatnot, those four elements, is the Good Samaritan laws, which basically say you can't get sued for jumping in and trying to help someone. And that's a good law because then no one will ever want to help anyone if they're in distress. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right.
I just wanted to point that out. That doesn't come up in any of these cases. I just thought it was an interesting little factoid to throw in. But a lot of physicians carry medical malpractice insurance. Do you want to talk about how that works? Like, what is that?
I mean, I think they're required to have it to do things. I mean, I know at least in most states that I've practiced in, they're required to have medical malpractice insurance. And so that's so okay. Like, let's say just taking the Nicole versus Terry lawsuit as an example. So in California, you have to send a letter like informing the doctor that you're going to file a lawsuit that has to have specific things in the letter saying like what's the basis for your claim, so on and so forth. So immediately then Terry's office would, or whoever had it, would send that letter to their malpractice insurance carrier. The malpractice insurance carrier would assign an attorney to work on the case. A lot of times almost never, the doctors don't get to pick their own attorney for who defends them. And they just get assigned an attorney and the attorney goes to work on defending the case. So and the doctor at that point, I mean, they may have to pay a deductible, I'm not sure, but like they're not paying like the attorney's fees, like by the hours, like the insurance company that pays for that. And the doctor has to pay that insurance no matter what, whether or not they are being sued. So
because it happens so much. Now it
happens a lot. Yeah.
medical insurance. So I was thinking we would talk about the boob god first and then get into Nicole James and then talk about Jen Armstrong's medical malpractice. Is that all right? So let's start with Real Housewives of Miami husband. I didn't even put his name in here. I just realized he goes by the boob god. There have been a lot of lawsuits filed against him. A lot of medical malpractice lawsuits. Oh, his name is Leonard Hochstein. He is known colloquially as the boob god in Miami. I'm just going to throw it out there. Anyone who has like a nickname, I don't like it. I'm not trusting you. If you're like the face god, the like arm god, I'm not. It's just not. Personally, not someone I'm going to go get my medical work from. That's just me.
You're saying that boob god doesn't inspire confidence in you? Is that what you're saying?
I just think also like the word God, it implies that you're going to make me perfect. So you're it's a big ask. Anyway, so she's back actually for season 4 of Real Housewives of Miami, which I think the first episode or something came out last week. So she's back. I'm kind of curious to see if any of these lawsuits will come up in the season. But to start, he's been sued 3 times in the past year for medical malpractice. I don't know if that's common to be sued that many times in a year, but, I don't practice this, so I don't know. But most recently, he was sued in August 2021 in Miami Circuit Court for using an, quote, improper surgical technique while performing a thigh lift, which left the plaintiff, she alleges, with an injury in and around the groin and labia that caused altered and deformed genitalia. It claims that she suffered aggravation of pre-existing conditions, suffered disability and physical impairment, suffered mental pain and suffering, all of which amounted to expenses to treat her alleged injuries. She's seeking damages in excess of $50,000. I don't know why that feels low to me. I don't know.
I thought it sounded low too. Okay. That seems low.
Yeah. If your genitalia is being altered by this procedure, I would sue for more. But also thigh lift. I'm just going to put a pin in that because that comes up later. A thigh lift.
Do we want to explain like what a thigh lift is or like?
I don't know what a thigh lift is. I'm assuming it's just like to lift it up and get rid of cellulite.
Well, according to plasticsurgery.org, thigh lift surgery reshapes the thighs by reducing excess skin and fat, resulting in smoother skin and better proportioned contours of the thighs and lower body. So,
well, let's put a pin in it though, because it's going to come back up later. I'm just saying, and this is probably not a surgery I would feel comfortable getting. Anyway. Then, earlier in August 2021, so the same month as this most recent lawsuit, Former patient Luz de Alba sued Hochstein, Boob God, because he allegedly left her with large open wounds and significant limitation of the range of motion in her arms. I don't know what... Oh, sorry. She also got a thigh and arm lift. So thigh lift again, but also an arm lift. Do you have what an arm lift is?
Yeah, let me pull up arm lift because I am right here.
I'm going to guess it's the same as thigh lift.
Yeah.
But for your arm.
Oh, this is cool. Arm lift procedure steps.
I'm going to Google it too.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So oh, wow.
Oh, okay. I see images of what this is.
The results of arm lift surgery will be long lasting provided you maintain a stable weight and general fitness. Blah, blah, blah. It's important to note surgical incisions should not be subjected to excessive force, swelling, abrasion, or motion during the time of healing. I mean, yeah, it's just like the thigh lift surgery, only they cut up your arms and then get rid of excess skin and stuff.
Yeah, it's like that part that sometimes dangles. All right. And then the third, oh no, this isn't from 2021. I don't know what the third lawsuit from 2021 is, but there's one from 2019 against Boob God by a woman named Christine Wilson, who claims that while having a breast augmentation, breast lift, and liposuction, a medical surgical needle was left in her body. So kind of like the sponge thing you were talking about, a medical surgical needle left in her body. She claimed to have endured pain and suffering, incurred significant medical bills and expenses, as well as extreme mental and emotional anguish. She sought damages of $15,000. I thought that was really low. $50,000 was low. $15,000 for having something.
That's probably just like the pleading requirement because it's damages in excess of. You know, so like when you file a tort claim, like on your complaint or
but
petition
the other
or whatever
woman
it's
said
called.
$50,000. Why didn't this woman go up to $50,000?
I don't know. That may be a typo.
Anyway,
yeah, because you have to put that in your complaint to like for whatever court you're filing it in. Like it's damages in excess of whatever amount, so that the court knows how to categorize it.
She should have put more.
That seems odd, but
yeah. Anyway, so he actually spoke out about this lawsuit and he blamed it on an assistant. So he didn't deny that something was left in her, but he blamed it on someone that he hired. He said, in 2017, I interviewed a surgical assistant to possibly hire for my practice. As part of the interview process, he was asked to perform skin closure. Ultimately, I decided against hiring him, but the needle left in Miss Wilson is strictly due to his negligence. I reached out to Miss Wilson in hopes of remedying this error, but she has chosen to sue me instead. So he's saying that he interviewed this person to do it, and then to do a test stitching up.
As part of the interview process, he was asked to perform skin closure. Ultimately,
was it on her? On her?
Yeah.
As part of the interview, he had
him do like a skin closure,
but her.
Then, yeah, on her. And then he I decided against hiring him, but the needle left in Miss Wilson is strictly due to his negligence. So yes, he's saying that that's like the assistant. One thing I do want to just add quickly is that when these guys get famous, like when Ceci's talking about when they have nicknames like Boob God or they're on a TV show, they have a very high volume of patients and they tend to have the resources to have a large amount of staff, basically do everything for them so that, you may not even, if you go to somebody famous for, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, but if you go to somebody famous for plastic surgery that shows up on TV, obviously they get a ton of exposure. And when you go for your initial consultation, it may not even be with that doctor. You may not even see or meet the doctor that's famous until your actual surgery because they have such high volume. And then the surgeon gets to do just the part that they really like, which is cutting people open and doing their fancy surgery stuff that they learned in residency and everything else. So this kind of doesn't surprise me when I'm hearing you read this.
Yeah. But I don't understand why anyone would let someone that they're interviewing do a part of a part of a client's surgery. He's not even part of his practice yet.
Yeah, maybe that's normal. I don't know. Maybe you do want to see how well someone, before you go to the trouble and expense and all the effort of hiring an employee, maybe you do have them. But wouldn't you, if it's not somebody employed by your practice, wouldn't you have to sign a consent form to be to say
I'm okay?
I'm okay with this? It always freaks me out that when you go to the hospital, that you have medical students like, working on you that are learning procedures, doing them on you when you're in the hospital, and you like, it's like, especially if you're like,
Yeah. So this came up in one of my surgeries. I've only had surgery once, and I had it back in April. And I got a bill later, and they were like, oh, someone out of your network was used as a medical assistant. And it's like, I didn't even know there was someone else in there aside from the people that I consented to being in there. But it's this thing where they'll like add people out of network. I don't know if it's like a conspiracy thing. I don't know, to get more money out of people. But yeah, so I had to pay a significant amount out of pocket for this person who was just happened to be in my surgery that I had no idea was there. And it's like, I wanted everyone to be in network. Like, I wanted my insurance to cover all of it. And then this random person is in there, and it's like, wait, what? What's going on?
Yeah, there has to be a way to fight that. But that's just one of the reasons why American healthcare is so daunting and scary. I do know one fact that I had friends in medical school, and they told me that the worst time to go to the hospital is in the summer because that's when all of the new residents start.
Oh, good to know.
And they said that's like when they're all brand new and nobody even knows where anything is in the hospital, and they're all stressed out. And they're like, that's probably the worst time.
It's good to know. And and like we're not giving medical advice. We don't give legal advice. We don't give medical advice. But also, why would you go to someone called Boob God to get your thigh lift done?
I mean, it's like people...
They're not all plastic surgeons do everything. Like,
no.
I wouldn't go to a plastic surgeon that calls himself Boob God and get your nose done, for example. If he has really good reviews on his boobs, I wouldn't go and get your nose done from Boob God. I'm not saying that happened.
I don't know. I feel like we have access to more resources, and then so it's kind of like we know how to look things up. So
I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't probably go. It's a thing. This is Terry Dubrow says it on Botched. Like,
yeah,
you go to the people that like this is their specialty. If you want to get your nose done, go to the nose guy.
Yeah, I know that's logical. That totally makes sense to me.
All right, so we're not done with Boob God, by the way. So before his latest lawsuit, he commented stating, I have been a surgeon for 31 years. Up until this time, I have never been sued for malpractice in this litigious environment that is quite an accomplishment. Oh, sorry, I can't read. In this litigious environment, that is quite an accomplishment. I can also tell you my lawyer firmly believes we will prevail in these two cases as well. So he also has sued websites and people that have left him negative reviews, like the website Real Self. I love the website Real Self. I go on there to see people's like before and afters, their thoughts on different doctors, all that. He sued and said that the false reviews that were out there, or the reviews that were out there, the negative ones, were false, defamatory, and are posted by not a real patient or person who actually received the services of the doctor. He also apparently sued Google, Health Grades, and MMP Solutions, Make Me Heal, which are also, I guess, review websites, in order to get the identities of anonymous reviewers. He not only sued the websites, he also sued individual people, his former patients, that left him bad reviews. He accused them of defamation, alleged they had violated the terms of an agreement that the patient signed. So he would have them sign an agreement when they were getting their procedures done that if they were to publish, they weren't allowed to publish any negative reviews or disparaging comments about him. So those are technically illegal, but he still put them in his lawsuit. In one case, the judge actually found that the patient had to remove some of her reviews but only because they were hearsay. She probably put stuff that were like, my friend went here too, and, but left and said that she could leave the negative reviews that she actually wrote and were part of her personal experiences. I mean,
so just being devil's advocate here, I can see being incredibly upset if you have... maybe you have I'm not saying this applies to the Boob God. I'm just saying it's just going to make me laugh. I'm 12, I'm laughing. But if you own a business and you are seeing negative reviews and you know that some of them are not true.
Yeah.
Seeing that, and that can really genuinely affect your business. That's frustrating.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, especially if you're building something and you believe in it and people are leaving reviews without even having seen you. Yeah.
Right.
But if they're legitimate.
Yeah. I mean, you can't That's the other thing. It's like, if people have legitimate negative reviews, then going after them for leaving those reviews, like explaining their experience or whatever, then, that's not great. Like,
yeah. So the attorney for Real Self actually spoke out and said, unfortunately, sometimes a doctor will resort to ill-advised litigation rather than taking online feedback and trying to improve. So that's some lawyer shade where he's like, maybe instead of going after these people, you should be a better doctor. That's what the lawyer is saying.
That was totally lawyer shade.
Lawyer shade.
Totally.
It's also claimed that Boob God bribed another patient for her to remove her negative review, and he has asked for $25,000 in damages. Oh, I'm sorry. He didn't ask for that. In his the agreement, he says he will sue for $25,000 for each review that is disparaging. So
the agreements that were illegal.
Yeah.
Pursuant to the Consumer Review Fairness Act.
Yeah. So then there's one more lawsuit. I'm just going to throw in a fun one. Just here. You want another lawsuit? I'll give you another lawsuit. So Boob God, this is so random. This has nothing to do with medical malpractice at all, but it's about Boob God. He is suing reggaeton star Nicky Jam for an unpermitted video shoot at his Star Island estate, like beautiful island in Miami. He claims that this reggaeton guy gave him a fraudulent $20,000 check as a security deposit to use his mansion in his music video, and says that they didn't get a permit. So another lawsuit. I don't think we're going to follow that one, but I had to throw that one in there. So this guy alone could probably keep us talking for a year. He has a lot of lawsuits going on. And yeah, we'll see if any of them come up in the next season. Do you want to talk about Nicole James v. Dubrow?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so at the time she was named Nicole Weiss. Am I pronouncing that right?
I thought I keep saying Weiss, but I think they all said Weiss. Remember when Shannon was like, "Oh, that's her, Weiss"? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly, I'm going to admit I may pronounce a lot of things wrong in this episode. And I apologize.
Me too.
In advance. Okay, well, Nicole Weiss or Weiss, we tried really hard to get these original documents, but they are so old that they are not available on the Superior Court website for download. But I can say from looking at it, it does look like it was pending for a long time, like at least what I can see on the docket.
Yeah.
And we just really can't tell what happened. But so when she is crying to Heather and Terry, when Nicole is James or whatever, is crying to Heather and Terry saying, "I am so sorry. I didn't think you did anything wrong. My attorneys forced me to do it." First of all, your attorneys cannot force you to file a lawsuit. I think I understand her maybe feeling pressured if they're saying, "Look, this is the only way to get compensation for your damages or the only way to get this fixed." But attorneys cannot force you to file a lawsuit. You are in control of that. You are the client. You actually have the power in the relationship. Now, an attorney may tell you, "No, you can't do or say that because it's illegal," or "No, I will not agree to whatever this course of action because we can't do things that way," but we can't force you guys to file lawsuits. Like, I mean, no. What did you think when you heard that?
No, yeah, I agree. And I think originally we thought maybe it was something like she didn't want to sue Terry, and they were like, "You have to sue Terry." But
that's
looking
true
at the docket,
too.
He was the only one named. So that doesn't make sense either.
I will say on this website, like having now spent so much time pulling things off of this California Superior Court website, people aren't necessarily named correctly, so we don't know that no one else was named. It doesn't show it on there, but I will say, like, that doesn't mean that somebody else wasn't named, because initially Ceci and I thought, like, that he was just within the practice of, or whatever, maybe he had to be named because he was part of the surgical team, but maybe he isn't the one that actually she felt like was negligent. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like when you, for example, if you take like construction litigation, for example, like say you like your general contractor, but you feel like your stucco guy really screwed things up. As soon as you sue your stucco guy, their insurance company is going to sue everybody else, like your framer, the general contractor, everybody. So just like sometimes it does snowball. Litigation does snowball. Just saying.
I just think in this situation it was Terry. and she sued him. She probably didn't want to. She probably didn't want to sue anyone, but she wanted damages. She wanted to be made whole, you know?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, the only way you can get your money back and the only way you can, you know,
right,
get justice is by suing him. So
I've had that experience where clients or potential clients were like, come to me and they're like, we need help. What are the options? And I'm like, well, you have to file this lawsuit. And I'm going to tell you this will set a chain of events into action. As soon as we file them, they're going to want to blame somebody else. Or it's like, best, we really do need to sue everyone because we haven't done discovery yet. And there may be more, there, you know? So it's like those, and I've had clients just be like, no. And I'm like, I get it, you know, like,
right. Or maybe she thought it would end with like a letter, you know, the initial letter or something.
right.
And then they were like, no, you have to sue him. So, I mean, I could see that. It's all very believable. Yeah. I guess like things that we do know is that it was filed November 10th, 2004, and it was dismissed by Nicole on February 21st, 2007. So that's 3 years of litigation, and it was dismissed with prejudice. Do you want to talk about what that is?
When you dismiss a case with prejudice, that means that it cannot be refiled. So like you can't bring the lawsuit again.
Yeah. And we don't know why she dismissed it, but she did. Like maybe they settled. We don't know. That's a possibility. But
yeah, we just don't. Unfortunately,
know.
we tried really hard, but there just wasn't a ton there.
But apparently didn't. Terry's over it. Who cares?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still thinking about that interaction where they're laughing.
Oh, terrible. I hated it so much. I love what the Crappens guys say about it, though.
Oh, my God. I was like dying.
Yeah, and they're like, most latest episode, are they like, it's not even about that anymore, but they're like, oh, Heather, do you want to do that laugh that we like doing? Oh, I hated that laugh. Yeah, so with the digging for that, we found that Terry had other medical malpractice actions against him. He has at least 3 other ones in state court that we know of. One from 2012, one from 2010, and one in 2018. And then there's a federal court malpractice claim against him. You want to talk about that one?
So this is a federal lawsuit filed in the Central District of California, and it's, I believe, based on diversity jurisdiction because the plaintiff lives in Texas and the other parties are in California. And so this plaintiff saw Dr. Dubrow on Botched, the show that Ceci loves to watch, when she...
I thought she was on it at first, and I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to go look up that episode, but she wasn't on it.
No, yeah. It's confusing the way she writes or the way the attorneys wrote the complaint a little bit when you read it, because you just think, oh, okay, it's the star of E! Entertainment's hit television show Botched. And then it's in a little more lawyer shade. It's like a show where, ironically, patients with botched plastic surgery procedures seek his services to correct failed surgeries done by other plastic surgeons. The plaintiff, who used to be healthy, active, and self-supporting, has struggled with her legs' appearance for her entire life. She has not worn shorts in public for over 20 years due to loose skin and cellulite on her legs. I can tell you, living in Texas, not wearing shorts, that would be unpleasant. So she wants to get plastic surgery to remedy her concern with her legs' appearance. One of her plastic surgeons in Texas informed her that she would need an upper thigh lift, which would require an incision from her inner groin extending towards her inner knee. Okay, so that explains why in the other one we talked about, she said she had like genital deformity, because I guess if you're slicing from your inner thigh to your knee, then like
that's just why I wanted to say put a pin in it, because this also has to do with the thigh lift. So
yeah. Oh man, Ceci is always very patient with me with my ADHD. My brain sometimes skips ahead and around way too fast. Okay, so she like flies out there, wants a consultation. And she's saying that despite both Botched and Dubrow's website claiming that each procedure is preceded by hours of extended consultation with Dubrow, he was only in the room with the plaintiff for 30 minutes before he passed her off to someone else for scheduling and payment, which honestly is kind of, I mean, I don't know, but that's what she's saying.
I think that's
like
kind
I
of
was
normal.
saying, yeah, like I was saying before, like that's pretty believable. Dubrow convinced the plaintiff that he could produce stunning results that would look unbelievable when comparing before and after photos. When she informed Dubrow of her Texas doctor's concerns, he dismissed them after showing her in the mirror that he would do it the right way and explaining that he is no stranger to complicated cases.
Well, yeah, his whole thing was that he would do the scar. It would be a smaller scar. So
Yeah.
she was concerned with the Texas doctor doing a big scar. And he was like, oh, no, I'll do it very little. So.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about like the
surgery?
What her,
yeah. So she claims that she had like the pre-op appointment with him. She like booked it. So she flew back out to LA. She's in the pre-op thing. He's like barely in there. She says a film crew came in and told her to be quiet. And she's like, I didn't consent to this film crew being in here. She says that he was really busy because he was filming Botched at the time. So he was kind of like in and out of the room with her. She didn't really get any, she claims she didn't get any post-op information on like how to heal herself or like what to do. She claims immediately right after surgery, 6 of her stitches came undone. He said he would come to fix it. So this is like right after surgery. He said he would come to fix it, but he was filming, so she had to wait 10 minutes. He came back, restitched her under local anesthetic, allegedly, bedside, and he said he couldn't take her back into the operating room because the film crew was in there and that they were filming.
Oh, yeah. Because, like, yeah, she says she sat up and she felt, like, stinging pain. And then, like, the nurse said that her incision line had burst open, like, 6 inches.
Yeah.
As a result of just her sitting up.
Yeah, she claims she had to wait a while because he was filming and too busy to come back. And so that's basically what keeps happening to her. It's like the incision keeps opening. She's like, Terry, what the fuck? He's like, do this, come back here, blah, blah, blah. And she has a bunch of complications because of it. She ends up getting like a bacteria in there. And she included very explicit pictures in the complaint that we looked at.
Yes.
I am glad I don't practice this kind of law because I could not. I cannot. I'm like getting hot thinking about the photos again. I'm going to like pass out.
I'll take over. Okay. So I had, in my career, I've had to look at a lot of medical records and pictures of things. Even though I didn't do medical malpractice, I did defend personal injury cases. I filed plaintiff's side personal injury cases. And then I also defended railroads where if people don't follow rules when they're working for the railroad, they can get very, very hurt, as in like getting, body parts cut off because it's a dangerous. Yeah, no, I've had to see a lot of things, and it's like you can't unsee something once you've seen it. Like you can't. So I've had to like figure out ways to like. I put them like on one of the moons of Neptune. Like I have like a little thing where I like visualize me just like putting it on one of the moons of Neptune, and then it's like it just seems to help when I see something that's just awful. Like,
yeah, well, these need to go there because it's very obvious that like she has a big old wound in her leg. Yeah. It's just open.
So I thought this was interesting in this because it's like she's claiming, seems like she's, part of what she's alleging is that like Dr. Dubrow's duties to film for E like made him like negligent in her procedure because he was rushing back and forth because they were filming. Yeah. Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
But then the reason that the motion to dismiss is just, or the amended complaint is just E, is because there was a forced arbitration with Dubrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's now in arbitration with Terry. Not forced arbitration, a binding arbitration. So she probably agreed to it in her agreement or her contract with him.
Yeah. And then there's stuff in here where she's saying, okay, she hired an aftercare nurse to assist her for 72 hours after the surgery. And then her sister also helped. The tension in her inner groin was so tight she could barely spread her legs. I don't know if that's normal or not, but like she said she had to keep her legs together. I mean, not normal or not, like after this type of surgery at all times, especially when getting out of the car. And then you never want to be running a fever after you get a surgery. And she started running a fever. And then she got swelling in her lower abdomen. She had to have fluid aspirated off of her wounds. She was trying to get scheduled with the radiologist to have a drain placed.
Oh, I think we can just do this high level.
Okay.
This is so gross.
Yeah, I was gonna say we might need to put like timestamps in to be like if you're grossed out by
No,
medical stuff,
I'm grossed out. I think the
Okay,
high
sorry.
level, just like she had complications.
I love it.
There
I'm
was
like, I want to give all the details.
No. Oh God, no. Yeah, she ended up in the ER. Yeah, just, it's the life-threatening stuff. But she's suing for $10 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's still ongoing.
Yeah.
So
it's still ongoing. So yeah, she's in binding arbitration proceedings with Dr. Dubrow, and then she is still in federal court against E.
Yeah. So that's Terry.
Oh, there's so many more gross
No, we're good.
medical stuff.
We're good. People can DM you if they want it. I don't.
Well, no. I think, our Patreons are like supporting us so that we can pull these documents, which cost money. I mean, I spent $100 just today on the California website on documents for an episode we have coming up. So like, I think we'll just post them on the Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
If people want the details.
If people want to see the photos, they will be on the Patreon.
If you like gross medical stuff.
I never want to look at those again.
Okay.
But that's Terry. So let's move on to Jen Armstrong. What's going on with Jen? I mean, she said on the episode that suing your doctor is one of the worst things you can do, which I don't agree with that. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Lawyers, so
yeah. Do not agree with that. If something goes wrong, like seek your retribution or your justice, So
yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I feel like most of the time, like you're not in a position where you're having to sue your doctor, and hopefully everything goes well. But a lot of times people don't even want to consider that because you're so vulnerable when you have a medical issue or you're going through surgery or whatever it is. You're putting yourself in an incredibly vulnerable position and trusting that person to go above and beyond to make sure that you like are given like the appropriate standard of care. And doctors, unlike lawyers, actually get real training in like medical school and then in their residency. Whereas lawyers, we can graduate from law school and have never done any actual lawyering. So they spend frequently like more time in school than lawyers do. It's like you really want to believe that somebody that spent all that time and effort to do all those things and that you're going to see for whatever issue it is you have is going to treat you like with incredible care. And I really believe most doctors do. I mean, but if there is negligence, then you should have a right to be compensated for that and at least, taken care of. And so, yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing you can do if the doctor's done something wrong.
Right. There's
a very recent medical malpractice lawsuit filed in California against Dr. Jen. And just a little info on Dr. Jen, since she's new. She graduated from Georgetown University with a master's degree in biophysics and physiology and later earned her doctorate of medicine from the John A. Burns School of Medicine at the University of Hawaii. She then attended a residency program at the University of California in Los Angeles. She is the CEO of Advanced Skincare, Dermatology, and Plastic Surgery. And according to her website, she specializes in injectables, lasers, and other non-invasive treatments to help patients achieve hair growth and anti-aging effects. So that's just a little bit about Dr. Jen.
That's great. I feel like a lot of doctors usually don't do that kind of stuff. Like you always have to have a doctor in the office to oversee it, but it's nice that she is a doctor.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm in my early 40s. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I've had fillers and Botox. So, and I go to a doctor to have that done. I just feel a lot safer. And I'm not saying that, and there's plenty of other people that could do it well. Just me personally, I feel better going to an MD for that because it's, you're putting needles in your face. So, but I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying that's what I do.
Right.
Okay, so this claim is by a woman that says that Dr. Jen, this is what she says in her complaint, botched an Exalis non-surgical facial rejuvenation treatment, which was supposed to tighten and firm the skin around her eyes and cheeks. It says she had previously visited her Jen's office several times to receive fillers in her cheeks, and she alleges that the second procedure left her deformed after the filler, quote, melted into her face, which is terrifying. So, okay,
here's the laser. Oh, God.
Okay, so here's a quick rundown of everything that she's alleging. So October 3rd, 2019, she had Voluma XC to her cheeks. Voluma XC is an injectable gel or filler used for deep injections in the cheek area to correct age-related volume loss in adults. I haven't ever had Voluma. So I don't have any personal experience I can talk about with that one. So, but that's like when you get older and your face starts to look more hollow, like that's a filler they inject in to kind of fill in those hollow spaces. Then on October 22nd, 2019, she attended a follow-up appointment and she received the Exalis non-surgical facial rejuvenation treatment around her eyes and cheeks for the intended purpose of reducing wrinkles and to firm and tighten skin in that area, which is what I talked about before in the little summary. So this is lawyer speak, but it says plaintiff is informed and believes, and thereon alleges, that as a result of the manner and method by which defendants performed the Exalis treatment, her previously injected fillers below the surface of her skin melted, causing issues that needed correction and a deformity in her face. So I had to look that up because I was like, I had never heard of that. All right. So the Exalis procedure delivers controlled radiofrequency energy to the deep layers of the skin to cause fat cells to shrink and the collagen supporting tissue network to remodel and form new collagen. This process results in fat reduction and improvements in skin elasticity and texture. Okay, I had to go on Google Scholar and look this up because I wanted to know, does this radiofrequency actually work? Because I just want to know. And it's like this machine and they put it over your face. And so I pulled one of the studies, and this is the efficacy of monopolar radiofrequency on skin collagen remodeling. But this is a veterinary study, but they have done studies on people. But they took this Exalis machine and compared the collagen structures in samples and then a 3-month period after being treated. And then they had a control where they, were not treated, and it was significant. So there was significant collagen improvement. And so I liked this study because it wasn't just a person reporting that they felt better or someone looking at it. So it wasn't, subjective. It was an objective thing that was measurable. So that's what that is. Then I had to Google, and because I'm like, is this a thing where this radiofrequency treatments dissolve fillers? There have been studies that show that it doesn't, but if you go online and look, there's lots of patients complaining that they had them done too quickly, and most doctors are now recommending that you don't do them so close together, so that you just to be safe. Because it looks like the people reporting that their fillers have been dissolved, which, by the way, fillers are really expensive. So if I had, it would be irritating just in general, even if you still looked fine, if you paid money for fillers and then the doctor had you get this radiofrequency treatment, which is another couple $1,000s, and then that dissolved your fillers. That would, even if it didn't leave you looking terrible, it would be obnoxious because that's a lot. It's you're wasting money. Mm-hmm. So then October 23rd, 2019, she returns for follow-up care and treatment. The follow-up care and treatment was for the purpose of re-administering new or additional fillers to be inserted into plaintiff's face as a result of the previous fillers having lost or otherwise melted due to the improper administration of the Exalis laser treatment. This is from her complaint. She was charged an additional $2,500 for this procedure. She says she didn't know at the time. So basically, what she's done is she's gone back and she went to an attorney who did research and said, okay, well, the dates of your treatment, and they're now claiming that it's this Exalis treatment that had the fillers dissolve. So she keeps going back. October 24th, she says 2018, it says her face changed remarkably in appearance as a result of these medical procedures on her face. It says her physical appearance is that of a puffy or fat face with her cheeks sticking out toward her head and ears, and the contour of her face being dramatically uneven. There were not pictures in this.
I wish petition. There were.
I know. I was reading it.
I would look at these. Yeah.
The other one had pictures. She said this appearance was the result of there being too much filler work being injected into plaintiff's face in an attempt to correct the prior improper and according to the plaintiff negligent medical treatment. So who was it? Was it Shannon?
Yeah.
Who's saying she had 6 vials of filler? That's a lot.
Yeah.
In her face. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't say how many vials this person has had. But then she goes on and she returns again, and she says that like she's still experiencing volume loss, but she's also too puffy. And then it says towards the end, December 23rd, she was given additional, and I may be pronouncing this wrong, but Vivase treatments, Vivase.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Treatments?
I think it's Vivase.
Vivase? Okay. As a result of those treatments, she experienced collagen loss in her lower face and chin, change in her upper lip, and collagen loss in her midface, nasolabial fold, and loss of filler in her temple. So it sounds like what she is saying is that she got a bunch of filler, had the filler, according to her, dissolve because of the radiofrequency treatment, and then got more filler as a replacement. And then there was too much filler in there. And then she got another treatment on her face, which she says dissolved it again. There's a lot of procedures.
But then she also said that she's
here.
like super puffy. So it's like,
yeah,
don't you want it to be dissolved?
This is a lot of things being done from October 3rd, 2019 to December 23rd. So there's a lot of things.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to just wait and see.
Yeah, and just see what's going on. If it's also like a lot of time, and like again, there's not pictures, we don't know. This is what this person is alleging. This is a very new lawsuit, but you go in, you feel puffy, and then so you go back in, and then they do other things, and it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't know. But I just wanted to talk about, just real quick as we're ending, a study on facial fillers and litigation, because I thought this was interesting. So, and again, everything we just said is just allegations made in a complaint. So and
it's still ongoing, right?
Yeah, it's brand new. Like it's a brand new. I don't even think she's answered yet at this point. Dr. Jen has answered. So
yeah,
I was curious if there was a study showing like how frequently there's been litigation from fillers, since this is a thing that I have personally done. It says this. So this is from the Journal of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, and this is from January 2020. And it says in 2017 alone, clinicians administered nearly 2.7 million soft tissue fillers, up from 1.3 million in 2007. So that's a huge jump.
I bet it's more after COVID or during COVID times.
So that's what, we saw on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City with the like beauty lab and laser, where what's her face? Heather was saying, oh yeah, my business has been going great. We're opening up a new thing because everyone's looking at themselves on Zoom now, which that makes sense. Yeah. And also I feel like people are being much more open about it than they used to be. Just openly admitting, oh yeah, I had all of this stuff done. And so people aren't thinking, oh, she just, rubbed olive oil on her face or something. This is, it's like, isn't that what like Jennifer or JLo says? Like,
that's a friggin' lie. Anyway,
it makes me angry.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. So it says, although injectable fillers have a relatively high safety profile compared with more invasive rejuvenation techniques, serious adverse events, including intra-arteria, which is entry by way of an artery, injections, necrosis, which is where basically tissue death, and visual symptoms such as blindness have been documented. Complications from injectable fillers have been a source of litigation, which is what we were interested in. So during that time frame, which is 2017. Yeah, through 2008 to 2017. There was a total of 2,813 adverse effects, and they included in their search Artefill, Bellafill, Bellotoro, Juvederm, Radiesse, Restylane, Sculptra, and Kybella. They looked through the results, and then they also used the Westlaw Edge database to collect reported jury verdicts and settlements from 2008 to 2017 for injectable facial fillers. So I thought this was really interesting because according to this study, the commonly reported events are swelling. Well, that's normal. Like you get something injected in your face, it's going to swell. I don't think that's it's not a complication. But the most common locations for complications were the cheek and the nasolabial fold, which I think that also kind of makes sense because you move around, like that part of your face moves around a lot.
Yeah.
And then severe complications included intra-arterial, again, involving entry by way of an artery, injections. Well, so that sounds to me like the injector like hits one of the like arteries in your face. And
right.
like actually like there's like the dorsal nasal artery that like goes down like the side of your nose, and which is scary. It's scary.
Yeah.
It says injections with radius were significantly associated with intra-arterial injections resulting in necrosis and visual symptoms. They analyzed a total of 11 malpractice cases. The median award in these cases resolved by a verdict in favor of the plaintiff or settlement was $600,000. In 10 of the 11 cases, a lack of informed consent had been alleged. Just generally, like informed consent is a sort of legal theory where like when you're consenting to the fact that complications of a certain type may occur and that you've been informed of those complications and that you consent to the surgery or whatever the procedure is, despite your knowledge of those complications. And you also acknowledge that those can occur even if there's been no negligence, like generally. Like these are just things like some people have reactions to things and most of the time they're rare. And like, you know, it's like the thing the doctor like tells you about and makes you sign before you do something. So that's just what that is.
But there's like a limit to it. You can't, I don't know.
Right.
Isn't there like if someone like dies, they sign a release on informed consent, like you can still sue the doctor.
Yeah, you don't
death.
like you don't consent to negligence, and they can't ask you to consent to negligence. So like if you the doctor when you're going to get your filler, for example, injects the filler into your artery, which is where it's not supposed to go, and causes complications and all kinds of stuff, then that's not informed consent. It's just like swelling, you know, normal stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know what the alleged complications were in these lawsuits. So there was pierced blood vessel, permanent facial disfigurement. It was from a Restylane injection, but I'm not saying this had anything to do with the Restylane because like it's the doctor that's being sued for injecting it into the wrong spot. Juvederm, permanent blindness. She was 48. Her settlement was $425,000. The first one I talked about was $750,000. Sculptra, that's periorbital, that's like around your eye bone. And like we don't have the info for some of this because obviously some of it was confidential. But most of the stuff was not too scary. It was just, and there was just one person that had permanent blindness and some facial disfigurement and then nerve damage. So this is a pretty small amount. And these are from the complications and litigation associated with injectable facial fillers from the Journal of Oral Surgery, Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, 2019. So now, hopefully we haven't scared you from getting stuff injected into your face.
Well, that just seems like a lot of money, though, when you compare it to how much like they're seeking against Boob God. Like just going back to that, like $15,000.
No, it just says more than. That's just that's just what you have to put. It's like when you're
I know, but still.
When you're filing something. Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you because it's like that seems like a low amount to have to allege. But that's just got to be like there's civil procedure requirements where you have to allege it's more than a certain amount, and that's the amount. Like it's more than $50,000. This is the case over, just for what court it goes in.
Florida's trial court system is divided into two tiers. Florida courts, like many courts, have jurisdictional limits. Each Florida court has a jurisdictional limit, which means they can only hear cases that seek damages, meaning money within those limits. Prior to January 1st, 2020, claims up to $5,000 were filed in small claims court. Claims greater than $5,000 and less than $15,000 were filed in county court, and claims for $15,000 or more were filed in circuit court. So it's kind of interesting because Florida's trial court system has two tiers, county courts and circuit courts. Florida noticed that their caseload in their county courts had declined significantly since 1992, and they didn't have enough cases to justify their continued existence. So that's why Florida amended the statute. And so whenever you see a complaint and it just says, and this is in general because like other court systems have this, like it says, you know, an amount greater than so-and-so or amount of damages greater than $15,000 or $50,000, that's so that you can properly plead that
so that your case is in the correct court system and you can show, yes, this court does have jurisdiction.
So the point is, it's just a jurisdictional thing. It's not limiting the amount you're claiming, and it's not limiting the amount of your damages. What it is just ensuring that your case is in the right court. For example, in federal court, diversity jurisdiction cases, the jurisdictional amount is $75,000. So you have to allege that the amount in controversy is over $75,000. So in the case that we talked about previously, where the plaintiff that lived in Texas is in federal court because she's suing E and attempted to sue Terry Dubrow, but she's now in arbitration, she had to allege that the amount in controversy for the diversity jurisdiction to be in federal court was over $75,000. But as we said, she's actually claiming millions of dollars in damages. So
that was the medical malpractice cases. Yeah, I think something we didn't talk about, though, is that there seems to be like a fine line between actual negligence and being upset with the result. And I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's important to say. Yeah. I mean, it's like that's part of being it's like the same thing we do as attorneys is you have to manage expectations. So you have to make sure that for us, it's our clients, and for doctors, it's their patients, have their expectations managed. So when they come in and they say, we want this, this, and this, you have to make sure that they understand there's only so much you can do, or this is how you think it will look, or whatever. Just like with cases, you can say, yes, we can file this lawsuit, but here's, how long it's going to take. Here's what could happen if we lose, and here's, whatever. So, but yeah, there is just getting a procedure done and not liking the results is different from negligence.
Yeah. So we'll let you know if there are any updates on the cases that we've talked about. And until next time. Oh, wait, we didn't mention we're taking a break for the holidays. Yeah, that's important. Not too long of a break. I think we'll release our next episode on January 10th. So until then, look on our Instagram. We might post stuff there still. If you want to follow us on Patreon, go support us on Patreon. We'll post stuff there. But as far as the podcast goes, we're going to take a break and release our next episode on January 10th. But yeah, or go back and listen to old episodes. They survived the test of time.
Yeah. Oh, we had our first Zoom with our Supreme Court Patreon members, and it was so much fun. We got to sit and talk Bravo for an hour, and we had a really good time, and we really appreciate everyone that showed up. And that's another way to connect with us.
Yeah. So for information on that, every third Wednesday of the month, we're hosting a live Zoom where you can chat with us about law, Bravo, whatever. And that's the Supreme Court tier. It has a cap on the number of people that can participate because we want it to be intimate and we want to answer your questions. So that next one will be January 19th. So sign up before then to get the Zoom link and join us.
Yes.
But yeah, so have a happy holiday. Happy New Year. We'll see you guys in 2022.
Bye.